Hello and welcome back to Xanthus Gaming. We're here today in Soulstone Survivors once again, and we're going to be doing a build guide for the Chaos Walker. The general idea of this build guide is that we're going to triple buff our Chaos Walker, and we're going to throw out a lot of chaotic missiles, a lot of chaos manifestations, and a lot of chromatic bolts. Those things are going to apply a massive amount of debuffs on enemies. As you can see here, it's going to absolutely shred bosses. It's actually kind of nuts how quickly this kills bosses, how much damage it does. Even at max difficulty, they just melt. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the build, and there are a couple of different variations that you can run if you choose to, so it's not locked in to one specific setup. There are some variants that you can run. I'm sure there's more than what I'm going to show you here today, but let's get on into it. For runes, you're going to be running Recklessness. This gives you more damage the lower in health you are. You start off with a baseline of 130 health with this character, which means if you drop down to like 30 health, for instance, you're already getting a 50% damage increase, which is equivalent to Purity with no downsides. The better part about this rune, though, is that you can scale it with more HP. So the more HP you get, the more damage you produce when you get low on health. You get up to 400 HP. Let's say you're at 440 HP, and then you drop down to 40, well, you're getting a 200% damage increase, which is just absolutely absurdly massive. In addition to that, we're also going to be running Executioner, which is going to make us do more damage depending on how many debuffs we have on targets. As you saw a few minutes ago when we were fighting the bosses, we get up to max number of debuffs very quickly. So you're anywhere from 60 to 75% bonus damage just off of that. You can see me just destroy that pillar there. If you want to rewind, you can see how many debuffs there were. It's actually kind of crazy how quickly you stack them with this build. In order to allow us to stack those debuffs even quicker, we're taking multicast mastery, which makes it so that our multicasts are likely to be big chains instead of little chains. This basically means that whenever we cast our missiles, we're going to be casting 4, 5, 6 versions of the missiles. The chaotic missiles go forward and come back, so they apply the debuffs twice. It's just absurd. And then Generalist gives us a massive damage multiplier with Chromatic Bolt, which also applies random debuffs. So yeah, it all synergizes very nicely together. Stat priority is cooldown reduction first and foremost, followed by multicast, crit to 100%, frailty, all debuff types, and debuff synergies. Cooldown reduction you need to stack until you can keep your auras up permanently, so your bloodlust, your might, and your arcane power. And then after that, you can focus on switching over to other things. The cooldowns on the abilities themselves are low enough that it's not a big thing with those abilities. The missile's just going to be firing pretty much constantly. The biggest thing is just to keep 100% uptime under buff. There is a variation on this build. If you choose to, you could swap out Arcane Power for the Chaos Bomb. If you do Arcane Power for Chaos Bomb, then you are looking to prioritize things just slightly a little bit differently. Instead of doing cooldown first and multicast becomes your top priority in that case, because you don't have your Arcane Power that provides you with that natural multicast. So you need to stack multicast through your abilities instead, so that you can get 3 or 4 instances of your Arcane Bomb every time, or your Chaotic Bomb every time you cast it. Here, let's skip ahead to the Endless. You can kind of see what it looks like once you get it fully built up. You just get massive AoEs of Chaos Bomb just going out all the time, just nuking the screen. If you do this variation, you definitely want to prioritize Area of Effect as well. This one is stronger, it can clear quicker, but it is more RNG dependent. So if you're just diving into it for the first time, I'd recommend you go with the Arcane Power instead of the Chaos Bomb. But it's up to you however you want to go. So, looking at these abilities, Chaotic Missile casts out a missile that goes forward and then returns to you 50% of the time. It will pierce enemies and apply debuffs. This is one of your primary damage sources. One of, I would say, probably your biggest damage source. This or Chromatic Missile. Both of those just do a lot of damage. Might buffs your raw damage of everything. Bloodlust gives you cooldown reduction on everything. And then Arcane Power gives you multicast on everything. Chromatic Bolt applies random debuffs, and will travel up to 60 meters and bounce as many times as necessary until it travels 60 meters. Very, very strong if you're doing the corner strategy. Otherwise, just pretty good. And then manifestations of chaos are these big circles you can kind of see floating around the screen there. They're always up basically because you have high cooldown reduction, high multicast, so they're just constantly floating around, hitting things and applying debuffs. They do a lot of damage in and of themselves, so they're very strong as well. Here's an overview of what the build looks like in general, depending on which way you want to go with it. You could definitely swap out the missiles for other chaos abilities as well, but this is the most effective setup that I found using the buffs. Your mileage may vary. Alright, and you can kind of see right here where we ended up damage-wise for the chaos build. I accidentally ran into the Reaper and killed myself. Whoopsies. And let's see where we ended up on the non. There you go. Without the bomb, this is kind of where we ended up instead. So fairly similar. This one we went a little bit deeper though. So the damage is higher, but if you look at the DPS numbers, they're, fairly similar. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the build. If you did, make sure you like, favorite, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.